Well, I've started the stream a little early. The sun came out and I didn't want to miss it. Today started off a little gray and very windy. So if the wind picks up, I'm probably, hey, yes, Jay, first one here. Hey, Jay, when we chat later today, I'll tell you how to turn on the ability for people to redirect people to your stream if you haven't found it yet. I found it when I was trying to change settings for something else. So I did find it. So yeah, I started early because the sun finally came out and the wind died down a little bit. But when the wind kicks up, I'm gonna have to stop. It's crazy windy today. Didn't expect this. But I am in kind of the heart. Well, all of Philadelphia is historic, but this area here for, if you like the old historic homes, the federal style, the colonial style, this is kind of ground zero here. This is Pine Street, and is this 3rd or 2nd Street that I'm on? 3rd Street and Pine. And I'm looking here at a preserved property, a property that's managed by the National Park Service. It is the, let me try to say it correctly, Thaddeus Kosciuszko House. I am Russian and Polish, so I should know how to say that name. Thaddeus Kosciuszko was a Polish aide to generals and military leaders in the Revolutionary War, and this was his house. And this is preserved. So this is definitely a colonial era home. There's always a question as to whether the style is colonial style or federal style. They're very close. This one is probably colonial style just because of the ornamentation above the door, while the one next door to it is probably federal style because it's not as ornamented. But characteristic brick homes, row homes, townhomes, whatever you want to call them, with shutters. And some of them even have original window, the window frames, probably not the window glass. So I'm going to walk down 3rd Street here and be extraordinarily careful, as I always am, of these sidewalks. I already almost tripped where a brick was missing across the street. But really, any street you walk down in this area, you'll get a really good feel for historic preservation, colonial and federal style homes, which are really typical. And Jay, these are probably looking very familiar to you. These styles are very similar to Boston. And some parts of New York and some parts of Baltimore, but the density of these types of homes can really only be found in Philadelphia and Boston. So then you have these 3 homes here, which probably were 2. So the 2 doorways on the left, if you look, you can always tell by the rooftop and how many chimneys. The original dwelling was probably, this was probably one single dwelling and then a small dwelling on the right side. And I will carefully cross the street, very carefully cross the street. I think this is the weekend of the Philadelphia Flower Show, the world's largest, and this guy just doesn't care, the world's largest flower show. So Philadelphia is just crawling with people. But on many of these homes, you'll see different markers for the various historical societies. But you'll also see, so look above there, the marker that says FA, it's probably Fire Association. So back in the oldie days, in your East Coast cities, Baltimore, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, if your house was on fire and you didn't pay your dues to the Fire Association, they kind of would let it burn. Hey, Pete. So these markers So this one says 1752, those plaques above the historical markers, that indicated which fire association you contributed to. And that's the one that would come and help your house out. And if you didn't have your marker up, if you didn't pay and they took your marker away, well, then you had to rely on your good neighbors to douse the fire in your home. And a lot of kind of the more historic insurance companies today have taken on some of the logos. I know in Baltimore, it's Baltimore American Insurance, and it's two hands shaking hands. And I am very fortunate that I have an ancestor who lived in one of these type row houses, and before they sold it out of the family, they pried that plaque off the wall, and I have that. So I have the Baltimore Mutual plaque from probably 1815 or 1816 Baltimore. Most of these houses have little, even if they don't have formal plaques, they have little signs in the windows. This one was built in 1771 in the colonial style. And the colonial style, again, has more ornamentation around the doors and the windows versus the federal style, which is just a little more bland. So obviously, those folks who lived here, who were in favor of departing or parting ways from England, wanted to show show that they were breaking away in a lot of different ways, right? Clothing, everything we've done with decorative arts kind of evolved from the English-British influence with just small tweaks. So in architecture, the more ornamented colonial style became more simplified after the Revolution. Obviously, they didn't want to tear down their houses, but they wanted to make small little changes that really distinguished from the English style. The colonial style in Great Britain obviously was called the Georgian style, which is also referred to here. This doorway is most certainly original. It's colonial and it's more ornamented as well. So we're going to take a little walk carefully through this amazing neighborhood and appreciate some of this architecture, and we'll work our way to Washington Square, and then we'll work our way to Independence Mall. And I'm not walking down that street because there's cobblestones. A little too dangerous. But a nice mix across the street here of some really early colonial structures. Mostly 3-story. A handful have a 4th story. And if you count the basements, which most of these buildings do have basements, and for the larger buildings, there may have been servants' quarters in the basements of these buildings. Pete, I hope you're having a great day. Let us know in the chat when you will be streaming next so that we can check you out. I actually went to stream. I was going to try to stream on my other channel today, my history channel today. But when I went to set it up, because it would have been my first live stream, you have to wait 24 hours, so it wasn't going to make it. So now I know. I don't remember that with this channel. I don't remember having to wait 24 hours, but yeah, so I wouldn't have made it. I think I set it up late last night and I wasn't going to be here. Now this house has several plaques on it. So, depending on how many fires were going on at one time, you might want to up your chances of survival and pay for multiple companies to take care of you. So this one has the clasped hands on the right and then a tree on the left, and in between the historic certification marker. So they were really in a good way. In the event there was some kind of a disaster happening, they had 2 companies that could come and take care of them. The cellar doors in many of these homes are still here. In Baltimore, there's a few. They were converted later after the colonial period for coal. So coal deliveries would come to those cellar doors when coal heating became popular. I just love this area. And you can also see that the owners really do take care. And yes, I would like to live here someday, 100%. There's a lot of places I would love to live. But that's why I'm happy where I am, because I'm kind of in between everything. I'm in between Baltimore and Washington. It's easy to get to Philadelphia. This is a 2-hour trip with a stop for coffee. New York, 3 hours on a train. Boston, 4.5 hours on a train? 5 hours on a train. But I would fly to Boston. I've driven there before. 7.5 hours with my parents and my kids. I love them all, but I wouldn't be doing that again. Characteristic also of Philadelphia. Oh, the sun is out now. Wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad. Characteristic of Philadelphia, in addition to the cobblestone streets, lots of these fences. And you might not know why one will pop up, but there are cemeteries everywhere. There are the main cemeteries attached to churches, but also little cemeteries will just pop up on corners. So be aware of all the cemeteries. I like this one. All right, let's head over. Now I'm on, okay, I'm gonna guess I'm on 4th Street because I was on 3rd Street. I'm heading towards Spruce. And this is also a preserved property. This is the Physic House. So this is really important in the history. Ooh, and there's no shoulders here, so being careful of traffic. This is really important in the history of healthcare and the medical profession in the United States. So Philip Singh Physic, considered, oh, there it is on the plaque, the father of American surgery. Lived in this house from 1815 to 1837 and is an example of a residence of the federal period. Obviously. Shutters, an American flag. These historic markers, of course, are everywhere because of so much preservation in this area, and it's just absolutely wonderful to visit. Every street, every alley has something to appreciate. In some places, a little bit of a mix of some contemporary buildings. But for the most part, you can't go down a street without seeing a colonial structure or church or a cemetery. And Jay, I'm looking forward to hearing your take on Akira. I found it a bit of a struggle. I'll give you a little sneak peek on that. I found it a little difficult reading and difficult watching. But that's okay. That's why the wheel of film is there, to make sure we watch things that we might not otherwise watch. Now, I hope I'm going in the right direction. So I did my usual extensive research before coming out today. And then I printed out my map. And then I left it in the car, of course. My little walking map. But you know what? Sometimes the best adventure is one that you stumble upon. And I know I've been down this street before because one of these is my favorite. I know I say that a lot. but this one here with the colonial flag hanging. And that's probably not the correct technical term, because there were many colonial flags. But the one with the circle of probably 13 stars is one that I like.
I apologize.
For a couple of reasons. It's a typical federal style. It's rather simple. I like the door knocker. It's narrow. I just like that one. And so I'm on Spruce Street. Betsy Ross flag. Yeah, that's what they call it too, but I'm like, I don't know if that's the technical term. And there's a whole thing on Betsy Ross. Like, did she really make the flag? I like to think she did. But there's no question whatsoever that that flag that inspired the Star-Spangled Banner in Baltimore during the War of 1812, there is no question that that flag was made by a lady named Mary Pickersgill in Baltimore. And that flag was humongous. And several years ago, I got to participate in a project to create another flag during the 200th anniversary of the Star-Spangled Banner. And my daughters and I got to stitch part of that flag. They invited people from, anywhere who wanted to come to the Maryland Historical Society to put a stitch or two in the replica flag that was just huge. The flag took up the entire room. So this, speaking of the War of 1812, was the home of President James Madison and his wife, Dolly Madison. Now, this plaque commemorates his role as the father of the Constitution, signer of the Bill of Rights. We also visited his home in Washington, D.C., when he was president during a time when the White House had been burned during the war, and he and Dolly had to go to temporary quarters on Pennsylvania Avenue in a home that is now part of the Embassy of Mexico. So lots of James Madison history in Philadelphia, and of course in Washington, D.C. Yes, Rick, Dolly Madison. Yes. Dolly Madison's and Little Debbie's. Those are awesome. And here's a few little two-story structures here on the corner. Now, I'm going to try to get my way up. I think I'm going in the right direction. I know where I am now. Okay, I'm good. Because I remember the maintenance office for the National Park Service. So many of these structures in Philadelphia are lovingly maintained by our National Park Service. And we are lucky for it. And we're also lucky for some sun. Rick, today started off really cold and dreary and windy. I was not expecting it. And then I decided, when I parked my car, the sun came out, the wind died down, and so I started the stream a little early to take advantage of that. But here, row after row of beautiful examples of colonial and federal architecture. Now, what I haven't shown you, and I probably have walked by several, in front of many of these homes, close to the curb, are carriage steps that still exist. And I'm looking for them and I can't find any. But they're little blocks of marble or granite that would offer a step up into a carriage. And they still exist here. I know there's one, I know where there are some south of here. I missed a few that we would have just walked right by. And when this gentleman opens his door, I'm gonna get a peek inside this home. Look at the chandelier. Wonderful. Now, many of these lamp posts, although they are fitted now with electric lights, were originally gas lamps. Many of the posts still exist in this area of Philadelphia. We are in the Society Hill area of Philadelphia, which is just wonderful for walking, but be careful. Bricks and cobblestones everywhere, conspiring to bring me down, as they often do. All right, I'm gonna take a spin around this corner, and there is Washington Square. Okay, I know where I am, and I do apologize. It's a little windy right now. When we turn the corner again, it won't be. And here's a historic marker for Holy Trinity Roman Catholic Church, founded in 1787. And it's a simple structure. I'm not going to go around the front because that's the street where it's most windy. Churches everywhere, cemeteries everywhere. And just history. Whether you have ancestors who lived in Philadelphia or not, it's a wonderful place to appreciate American history. Obviously, together with Boston, I mean, this is the cradle of our republic. I will walk a little slower. I realize I'm walking really fast now. Bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. So if you can imagine, harken back to the 18th century, after the Revolution, 1790s, 1789, it was all happening here. The Constitution was drafted and ratified here. Foreign dignitaries were moving here. Discussion about where the nation's capital would be, all kind of played out in the musical Hamilton, if you know your Hamilton. And the wealthy were living in this area. And they appreciated their green spaces. And one of those green spaces, designated and named after our nation's, the father of our nation, is Washington Square. And so here, Philadelphia's original town square, planned by William Penn himself in 1682, placed on the National Register of Historic Places, of course. So 1682, there aren't many places in the United States where we can trace history to the 1600s. I live in Maryland, in Baltimore. Not much there. Most of our earliest history, 17th century history, was in like St. Mary's City, which was one of the first settlements in Maryland. But you'll find in many of our oldest cities an appreciation for green space. And where this was established in the 1600s, you'll find that across Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., New York, you'll find the importance placed on maintaining these squares and parks. And I'll do a whole video someday on Mr. Latrobe, who influenced the design, not just of parks and green space, but also kind of urban design for many of these cities on the East Coast. Now, this is a fountain that's not on right now because it's uncharacteristically cold today. But this is a really nice spot in Philadelphia. Freedom is a light for which many men have died in darkness. And that's a memorial to George Washington. Hey Ben, good morning. Glad you could join this little walk through Philadelphia. And if I'm going in the right direction, because I do tend to just wander aimlessly, we may or may not make it over to Independence Mall. We'll see. We were walking through and appreciating the historic architecture. Once you start to get to the outskirts of Society Hill, you do start to see a mix. And here is, I'm gonna guess, a 1930s example for, at the time, a skyscraper. And normally when I see these kind of grand entranceways with bronze doors, I tend to think, no, that's not at City Hall. Oh, no, Rocky statue is at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and I do have a video on that. So, great question. Philadelphia Museum of Art is, for researchers, it's a gold mine. Even if you didn't have ancestors in Philadelphia, the Museum of Art, it's kind of unique. Ooh, and I'm sorry for the wind. It maintains rooms decorated for different historical periods. So if you want to see what a 1655 living room looks like, you can probably find it at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. It has room after room of decorative arts, so that you can see what it looked like when people lived there. Naveed, hi! Thank you so much for all of your kind messages after my last stream. I really appreciate it. Check out Gape Horn Exhibition. Oh, so Naveed, so today I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's about 2 hours north of Baltimore, where I live, and it is chock full of American history. So I'm taking a little short walk today, carefully on these bricks. We just took a look at some examples of colonial and federal style architecture. We just walked around Washington Square, and now we're gonna head toward Independence Mall, where it all happened. And we'll see Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell, and then I will end the stream. Yes, happy Women's Day to you, Naveed. And I'm so proud to say that International Women's Day is also my grandmom's birthday. And she would have been 101 today. She passed away several years ago. And that woman was certainly an example of a woman. She took care of her family while her husband was off fighting World War II. Raised 4 amazing children, one of whom is my dad, and 6 amazing grandchildren, one of whom is me. And then I forgot how many great-grandchildren. We'll have to count them up. But yes, today is International Women's Day. Oop, I gotta talk really fast because there's music playing. Hate it when that happens. I will have to keep chattering because now I can't cross the street because the light won't change on me. I might go mute just for a second. I don't want the descendants of Roy Orbison to sue me. So we're walking up the steps to Independence Hall, the place where the Declaration of Independence was read out on July 4th, 1776, where our Constitution was ratified in 1789, and the National Park Service does amazing tours here. And be prepared because they'll quiz you. I know the last time I did a tour here, I just had a wonderful tour guide. He was so great with kids and adults alike. Also, if like me, you adore the film National Treasure, you might recognize the cupola up there, which was the place where our main characters found the spectacles, Ben Franklin's spectacles, so that he could read the hidden message on the copy of the Declaration of Independence that they borrowed, shall we say. This is a really popular tour, and so there's always a line, but well worth it. Absolutely worth the tour. You can learn all about the signers of the Declaration of Independence from all of the states, as well as the Constitution, and you can see Ben Franklin's chair that has a sun carved into the back of it. And when our nation was contemplating whether to really go through with this, were we going to break off or attempt to break off from England? Were we going to go to war with, at the time, the most powerful navy in the world? Were we really going to do it? And he looked at that chair and he said, it depends, and I'm quoting him incorrectly, but he really asked, it depends, do you see a sun rising or a sun setting? And those who were with him agreed that they saw a sun rising and an opportunity to create a new nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that's what we did. And that's what's so cool. And here you can really immerse yourself in that amazing story. And you can see what they saw. You can visit many of their graves. Ben Franklin's grave is not too far from here. Bring a penny. People put pennies on his grave because of the many talents of the Renaissance man that was Ben Franklin. He also liked to share all these little witticisms, some of which he invented. Others he definitely borrowed from other people and called his own. But one of them was, a penny saved is a penny earned. And so at his grave, you put a penny on his grave to honor Ben Franklin. Now this next block, you can see, definitely takes us out of the colonial era. We are now post-industrial revolution. And we've got banks and all kinds of industrial buildings coming up here in Philadelphia, which is a very prosperous city in the 17 and 1800s, even into the early 1900s. So you'll see the Hotel Monaco here is a really good example. I don't see a stone, but I'm gonna guess like 1910s on that one. And then a different variety. You tend to see the rounded arches here. It's a combination of the Beaux-Arts style and the influence of the Second Empire. And one of the best examples of Second Empire architecture is Philadelphia City Hall. City Hall is, it's amazing. It is studied in architecture classes. We're not gonna see it today because it's down Broad Street a bit. But we're gonna see the front of Independence Hall here. And looks like they're fixing the sidewalks, so, oh my, okay. Looks like they're doing a lot here. All right, so we've got definitely some renovation happening here on Independence Mall. It looks like all the walkways are getting a redo, which is nice. All right, so I'm facing right now. This pavilion here is where the Liberty Bell is. And you can see beyond that, the visitor center. We'll get a better look in a minute, but I wanted to get a good look here at the front of Independence Hall. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate it. You're my cheerleader. I like that. Do you remember what they found in Franklin's home a while back? Corpses from his medical science studies. I don't doubt that. He was a Renaissance man. He believed in learning and studying everything. And actually, if you look at these buildings, you got the rounded window frames at the top. That style is so typical of Philadelphia and Baltimore, New York, Boston, the four cities we keep talking about. But Franklin did it all. Now in Baltimore, we had Frank the Body Snatcher. And someday I'll do a video on Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland, two of the nation's first and absolutely, even to this day, most prominent hospitals and teaching hospitals. And also Baltimore being a very Catholic city where the church frowned upon cutting people open to study them. So you've got these prominent learning institutions, but no way to cut open a cadaver. And along comes Frank the Body Snatcher. And Frank the Body Snatcher and others would go into the cemeteries and pluck up the freshly buried, put them into whiskey barrels, and roll them down the hill to those universities for the benefit of all mankind, of course. But there are many stories of Frank the Body Snatcher, even today, hundreds of years later, lurking around the cemeteries of Baltimore, looking for the freshly dead. We have good Halloweens in Baltimore. This is the pavilion that houses the Liberty Bell, and you don't need a ticket. Years ago you did. You don't need a ticket right now. And we're getting a beautiful sunny day here. Wonderful. All right, I'm just gonna work my way. Well, hello, Munib Atari. It's wonderful to meet you, Munib. We're here in Philadelphia, in the United States, in the state of Pennsylvania, and we're in the heart of the historic area. You can see at the end of Independence Mall, the National Constitution Center, which is a museum. And what you can't see very well, all the way to the right and across the street, is the United States Mint, where our coins are made. Our coins in the United States are made in Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and special coins made of platinum and gold are made in West Point, New York.
Long care for the grandchildren.
And I'm going to be quiet because there's a tour here. I don't want to talk over the tour. I want to cross this street. Oh, can't get there.
Also, 1790, you have the Gradual Abolitionist Reduction Act, meaning that if you're a resident of Philly or Pennsylvania,
Let me see where I can get across the street here. Oh my. Oh goodness. Okay. I want to get over there. I want to get over there. I could climb the fences. That would be fun for a stream. I'll make my way over here. And yes, Independence National Historic Park, maintained by our National Park Service. I'm gonna guess, I might be wrong, I'm gonna take a guess that second only to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia may have the most properties managed by our National Park Service. All right. Upon a safe route, I will scurry with haste across this street. Okay. Sorry for the bouncing. I'm running. Running, running, running. Oops. I know bouncy streams are definitely not enjoyable. But you wouldn't want me to get hit by a car here. Wow, there's a lot of construction here. So, welcome to Philadelphia. This is the kind of the heart of the city where you want to be for historical research and history fun. It looks like it'll be in great shape for the summer. Lots of construction going on right now. I'm going to make our way into the visitor center and show everyone where to get their national parks passports stamped. Gift shop. Nice gift shop. Tickets for tours. Thank you, Rick. Hey. Hey, Robert, how are you? Hope you're doing well. So here in the visitor center, try to talk quietly. A theater about all the sites that we just took a look at, with a nice introduction to the city and all the museums. Place to buy your tour tickets. And then our National Park Service. So all of the places in this area, I think there are 12 stamps. If you have a National Park Service passport, you can get your passports stamped right here. And I've actually done that on a stream. And here are all the properties: Independence National Park, Liberty Bell, Old City Hall, the Thaddeus Kosciuszko House, Edgar Allan Poe House, Underground Railroad, Gloria Day Church, the Ben Franklin Memorial, the Deshere Morris House, Declaration House, Washington Rochambeau, and the Schuylkill River. And you get out your little passport and you stamp them. I'm not going to do that here because I have multiple passports. And it would take me a half an hour, and I couldn't hold the phone while I do it. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Oh, and here's a replica of the chair I was talking about, with the sun. The sun that is rising, not setting. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic day. Join us for Film Club at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on Stasis Geeks channel. The film today is Akira. Bye, everyone.